afternoon, good afternoon. Peace and blessings. This your boy Jay Taylor, Voices for the Voiceless, and I'm back with another video. And we gonna get straight to it, man. Hope everybody enjoying their Friday. Weekend is here. Yes, indeed. And as the title says, let's do a brief recap of the tape regarding Reshona Landfair, Lisa Van Allen, and R. Kelly. As you know, Shauna Landfair has came out. She's been doing several interviews. She's also dropped a book, and you know that's her prerogative. And I'm not going to shame anybody that wants to tell their story, how they see it, and how they want to tell it. But we, as people that have been following this case from its inception, you have to remember certain things, you know, certain things that just didn't add up as it pertains to the case, to the tape, and how it came about. So let's start from the beginning. Reshona Landfair met R. Kelly at 12 or 13 years old, according to her, through her aunt Sparkle. Um, Sparkle was a recording artist with R. Kelly at one point. She had, several songs and even an album that she released with R. Kelly that he produced, most notably, Be Careful. And according to Reshona Landfair, Sparkle told her to sit on R. Kelly's lap, rub his head, and ask him to be her godfather at 12 or 13 years old. That in itself is a strange circumstance for several reasons. Somebody 13 years old being instructed by their aunt to not sleep with, but to, do anything inappropriate like sitting on a grown man's lap, you know, is odd. But this is the story that we've been told. And it said that R. Kelly obliged and became her uh, godfather at that point. And then we know Sparkle and Kills had a falling out. She left. But the family, Reshona, her mother, and father stayed close with R. Kelly. This was around, the 90s. You know what I'm saying? Say maybe 97, 98, right? And we know Sparkle's brother-in-law and Rashona's father, Greg Landfair, rest in peace, played the guitar for R. Kelly. And, you know, when Sparkle left, they, maintained a relationship with R. Kelly. Sparkle and R. Kelly became arch enemies due to creative differences and things of that nature. Reshona also sung and rapped in a group, a kids group. They toured overseas, so she was a recording artist as well, working with R. Kelly as well as her father. Jim DeRogatis was supposed to receive a tape in 2000 or 2001 in the mail, and the tape was supposed to be child pornography involving who he assumed to be Reshona Landfair, and he contacted Sparkle, which was weird. Jim DeRogatis, being just someone that was a reporter at Sun Times or something like that, receiving the tape anonymously in the mail and contacting Sparkle, right? So Jim DeRogatis receives this tape, automatically assumes that it's Reshona Landfair of all people on the tape. She's 14 at this time, contacted Sparkle, and Sparkle contacts Child and Family Services. Odd that Jim DeRogatis would not contact Reshona's mother and father, but contacted the aunts, which is Sparkle, who was not associated with R. Kelly at this time, in fact, was an enemy. So Child and Family Services do their investigation, and they contact Reshona for an interview and her parents, and it was concluded that no foul play was going on at that particular time, right? So we have to talk about Lisa Van Allen at this point because when the tape surfaced, Lisa Van Allen claimed that she stole the tape out of R. Kelly's bag, and the tape was supposed to have a threesome, according to Lisa Van Allen, between her, R. Kelly, and Reshona. Now, I got a request on my last video from a gentleman to do a video on Lisa Van Allen. So, I wanted to make sure that I dove more into her involvement as she is very instrumental in this situation. She was also involved in the trial, not only in the recent trial, but she was also in the first trial in 2008. So Lisa Van Allen met R. Kelly on the Home Alone video shoot back in 1998, right? In 1998, she lied on the stand, and she was also a survivor in R. Kelly, and lied and said that she was 17 years old, right? But she was actually 18. So that's instrumental. She came in the game lying about her age. She was born in June of 1980. The video shoot was in 1980. She was born in June of 1980, but the video shoot was in August of 1998, right? Or September. So if you do the math, her 18th birthday would have passed that June. The video shoot was in August. So she was 18 years old in a few months, right? At the Home Alone video shoot. R. Kelly had the song with Keith Murray, Home Alone. Kels and Lisa Van Allen had a very lengthy relationship. He even bought her a home in Florida, in Kissimmee, Florida. Bought her, vehicles, took care of her. At one point, she left and came back with a child from another man, and he still accepted her in. So they had a very lengthy, strenuous relationship. Now, a little bit more history on Lisa Van Allen. She was adopted, and she lived with her adopted mom in Atlanta, Georgia. She left home at 16 years old, just 2 years before she met R. Kelly, right? So she was kind of already in the streets. Public Announcement, which was a group that R. Kelly's, sang with back in the mid and late 90s, confirmed that Lisa Van Allen was indeed a groupie. They confirmed on the interview with Vlad that she would walk around the studio in just her panties on. And also the twins that worked for R. Kelly confirmed that Lisa Van Allen was always with another girl named Beverly. So we gonna do a live about this, and we gonna break all this down and chop it up, and I'm gonna get some people to hop on the panel too, because we got a lot to talk about more with Lisa Van Allen in depth. This is just a brief overview. So she used to be with Beverly, which was they were known as a package deal. Lisa Van Allen even wrote a book later on called Surviving the Pied Piper. She had 2 baby daddies. Both of her baby daddies did federal time, right? So Lisa Van Allen also herself has a criminal record, including identity theft, bank fraud, drugs, possession of guns, and etc. For her book that she wrote, she was offered $350,000. Okay, now R. Kelly and Lisa Van Allen end up splitting and breaking up eventually. And when she left, she also stole a Rolex watch from Kels that was worth $20,000 rather, right? So she got this tape, and she formed this conspiracy, which we know came out in court. She conspired to extort money from him to get the tape back in exchange for her testimony. When she stole the tape, she like, hey, if you give me some, hundreds of thousands of dollars, I'll give you the tape back. So Kels, I guess that didn't work out, of course, and he never got the tape back. But in 2008, in her testimony, and this was a large part of Kels beating the first trial, she was basically thrown out of court when she testified in 2008 because her testimony was so ridiculous and riddled with lies, right? So she did testify. Now, and she was found to be not credible. Lisa Van Allen supposedly gave the tape to an individual named Keith Morrell. Now, Keith Morrell, in trial, we found out was an artist that was working with R. Kelly, and they had, differences due to, creative differences. Where at some point, him and R. Kelly became, enemies, so to speak. Lisa Van Allen befriended Keith Morrell, that she was around R. Kelly all the time, and Keith was one of his, artists. So she gave the tape to Keith Morrell. Now, in the trial, he testified that she gave it to him bragging about sleeping with the celebrity, with R. Kelly. Not anything about a minor on the tape. Now, all of this came out in court. So when she gave the tape to Keith Morrell to keep, she basically told him, man, this is me and R. Kelly, and it was never anything about a minor on the tape, right? So that was instrumental in the trial for them beating the obstruction of justice charges, which I talked about in the first video. He was a witness. Now, Keith Morrell wasn't a witness for R. Kelly. He was a witness for the prosecution. He also testified that it was 3 consenting adults on the tape to his knowledge. Lisa Van Allen, R. Kelly, and Drea, R. Kelly's wife at the time. That's who he thought, and he said that, man, this was just a threesome on tape between 3 consenting adults. He testified to this in court. He also testified that it was Lisa Van Allen's idea to extort R. Kelly to get the tape back because he didn't want his wife out there like that. He also said Lisa Van Allen sent him R. Kelly's chain and watch, which she suggested that he could pawn for $100,000. All right. So Lisa Van Allen, which I had a request to kind of dive more into her in this video, was responsible for stealing the tape, was responsible for disseminating the tape. Maybe that's the reason why the tape got to Jim DeRogatis. I don't know if it was her or if it was Sparkle. Sparkle said that Jim DeRogatis reached out to her about the tape. So it's a lot of confusion. And we had another person by the name of Chuck Freeman that we're going to talk about at another date, that was involved with Keith Morrell and getting the tape back. But this is why Kels had 2 co-defendants in this case. Daryl McDavid and Joel Brown, because they were the ones that were working with R. Kelly to try to get the tape back. They were Daryl McDavid was his manager at the time, and Jim Brown was like his, he worked for him as an associate. So all this confusion around the tape, and Lisa Van Allen is the one that allegedly stole the tape from R. Kelly that had her, R. Kelly, and Drea. Nothing about a minor. So that ultimately was pivotal in all of them beating those obstruction of justice charges. And Reshona going out here, speaking on this, confirms that they were never paid off. R. Kelly never went to pay Reshona or her family to keep quiet. Reshona is going out here saying she did not say nothing because she didn't want to hurt R. Kelly. She was basically in love with R. Kelly, mesmerized with R. Kelly. So she didn't want to just see him go to jail. It was never nothing about he sent her off with her family on a trip. It was never about he intimidated her and her family. It was never nothing about he paid them off to remain silent. So those obstruction of justice charges, being in itself by Reshona, by her own words, were never substantiated. So how did they come up with this to even bring forth these charges in the first place? Because he already went to trial and won based on child pornography in 2008. That first trial, he beat that. So if you don't have obstructed justice as a point of reference to recharge R. Kelly due to Reshona's own words, and remember in 2019, Reshona lawyer came out and clarified that they never ever received any payment to be quiet, none of that. So for them, for the government to bring these charges, you know, that's a huge issue right there. If it wasn't any, if Rashona's even saying that she was never paid off, was never attempted to be, silenced in that way, then how do you have obstructed justice to begin with? Now back to Reshona. In the trial, it came out that Reshona lived with Kels and his wife until she was 26 years old. Okay, now that's an issue because if you're saying that this man was, doing anything with you inappropriately as a child, why would you continue a relationship with him well out until you're grown? You know, she testified that she was in a sexual relationship with Kels and Drea, so she confirmed that she was still in close contact with Kels up until January of 2019. Text messages in the trial confirmed Kels was paying her rent and when she moved out and still continued an intimate relationship. She moved out at 26 years old and still continued an intimate relationship with Kels, even to the fact that he supported her financially, paid for her rent, bought her a truck, anything she needed, Kels provided, right? So Reshona was even texting Kels after Surviving R. Kelly came out, right? One of the text messages that came out in trial read from Reshona after the docuseries dropped in January of 2019, and I quote, this is Reshona saying, and I quote, "I love you, don't let the devil win." This Reshona. Kels responded with, and I quote, "Yeah, I was on the major breakdown, but now I'm on the major build up." She changed her number at this point and even gave Kels the new number. So one have to ask themselves, if R. Kelly was such a horrible person and you are of age now, in 2019, you had to be well into your late 30s. Change your number, you reaching out to him after the docuseries, telling them don't let the devil win and all of this. See, this is the reason why. All you have to do is really look at what he was sentenced with in the Illinois trial. 19 years concurrent with the trial of New York. So he was sentenced to 30 years in New York first before this trial. The judge said, okay, 19 of these 30 years is going to run concurrent with New York. And I'm only going to give you 1 year that's not concurrent, right? So if New York, if he would have won his appeal in New York, R. Kelly wouldn't have been held, he wouldn't have been held no more in Chicago because it's ran concurrently. And all he would have to be responsible for is a year. So basically, the trial in Chicago, in Illinois, he only got 1 year. If he would have won his appeal in New York, he would have been free because he would have been time considered served at that point. He had served well over a year, right? And also, we got to keep in mind, everybody has a price, right? We see Reshona was cool with Kels up until 2019 until the feds offered her $14 million for her testimony to switch on Kels, offer her Section 8 and immunity, because if she is purges herself, she could be held accountable herself and go to jail, in which she lied. If she's telling the truth now, that means that she lied back in 2008. She lied all the way up until January of 2019. So she was given immunity as well. So people will be loyal, but everybody got a price. And you talking $14 million. But the judge denied that restitution, so she never got that money. The judge only essentially only gave him a year. And also the judge in Illinois denied her restitution. He heard everything and said, listen, I'm not finna grant you no restitution. That speaks volume to everything, the whole relationship for decades. No, her father, Reshona Landfair, father, Greg Landfair, worked for R. Kelly. They went to visit R. Kelly well past him working for R. Kelly. I mean, for decades. They spent holidays together. So when the feds get involved, that's when the story flips, right? So we have to keep note of all this information. We got a lot more to break down, because while Reshona is on this press run, and that's her prerogative, hey, I don't have nothing negative to say about Reshona, but we do have these questions because this is stuff that came out in court that's documented, right? So the tape, Lisa Van Allen, R. Kelly, Reshona Landfair, the people that stole the tape, the people that had possession of the tape to give it back, nothing about a minor. It was to be retrieved because Kel's ex-wife was on the tape. That's what came out in court. But hey, it's your boy Jay Taylor, Voices for the Voiceless. We love y'all. And until next time, like I said, I'm gonna get a live together, a panel, and we're gonna break this down with videos and evidence soon. You know, as soon as I can get in there and get a panel together, we're gonna dive off into this more. But yeah, Voices for the Voiceless, we love y'all. And until next time. And make sure, before I go, the words going past the screen, there is a link. There is you can copy the link and go visit Voices for the Voiceless clothing store. You know, our online clothing store called Voices Apparel. Make sure you support the channel, man. We appreciate it. It's your boy Jay Taylor, Voices for the Voiceless. Once again, we love y'all. Until next time, we should see you soon. Peace and blessings.